Good.
How do you become a head of state? Did you, when you were a child, think to yourself, when I grow up, I would like to be a head of state? Was it anything like that?
And then I think I wanted to be a fireman, as far as I remember. But Ned, the answer to the question is, firstly, you have to be Catholic. Then you have to be a member of the Order of Malta, point 2. Then you have to be a monk knight and say you can bear arms. Years ago, the Templars were the same, the Teutonic Knights were the same, and we are the only one left with its original status, its original ethos.
The Order is now a global medical organization with 30 ambulance corps, 40 full-size hospitals, 1,500 medical centers, and in England alone they run 72 old people's homes. They've prospered over the centuries because of their extraordinary holdings.
You are nonetheless the repository of significant wealth, if I can put it like that. And indeed, some people even say billions.
Well, I think that's not
no,
true.
I mean, how much is myth and how much is reality?
Let me tell you, it's not vastly lavish. We don't have helicopters and we don't have yachts, but we have enough to, as it were, put bread on the table and petrol in the car. We're very lucky as an organization because over the centuries, people have given the order considerable assets, if you like. And so, for instance, in England, after the king and the church, the order was the largest and most important landowner in Britain. And that was true of all the countries of Europe, or largely true. And over the centuries, what with wars and revolutions and all the things that has happened in history, we've lost nearly all that property. Except for here in Italy, we still have quite a lot, and we also have quite a lot still in Austria.
Yes.
And it is that property which allows us to operate. I mean, you know, it cuts the hedge, it weeds the gravel.
From its Rome headquarters, the Knights of Malta runs its worldwide network with 14,000 paid-up members, including many of Europe's aristocrats, captains of industry, and senior politicians. To project its influence, it's appointed over 100 ambassadors, including special representatives to the United Nations.
You have your own passport, you have your own currency, and if I'm going to post a letter here, I buy a sovereign order stamp.
You can buy a stamp. We do have those three things. We do have passports. We only issue them to the diplomats of the order. The currency is the scudo.
Is your head on it? You're not like a Roman emperor with laurel wreaths around the crown of your head.
No.
How do you look?
They said, take your specs off.
Yes.
And there I am, sort of staring into the middle distance.
So I could buy a full set of scudos with your head on it.
We might even give you a set.
That's what I was aiming for. Absolutely.
In the end, they didn't give me any of their coins. A shame, because I'm told they are made from real silver and gold. It is the legends about the Knights of Malta that have inspired fantastic stories from Indiana Jones to the Da Vinci Code. I was curious to see if there was anything in them.
Then somebody comes up with a movie like the Da Vinci Code, or rather a book like the Da Vinci Code, and a movie like, and you are immediately a dark international force with tentacles.
What is intriguing is that, of course, truth, as they say, truth is stranger than fiction. But it is very interesting, these extraordinary connections in the past. The original viceroys of South America and Central America under the Spaniards, the man who commanded the Spanish Armada.
Yes, Medina Sidonia.
With all Knights of Malta.
This is why everybody thinks you rule the world. Because you have had. Well, you have had this universal.
We've had this
authority.
No, well, I don't know about that, but certainly influence. Oh, sure, influence, definitely influence.
When they are not plotting world domination, the Order get on with their medical calling. 100,000 people are involved. That's the equivalent to the payroll of a company like BP. It seems to me that Rome is one of those historic cities where ancient institutions, like the Knights of Malta, have learned to keep up with the times. To the outsider, the ritual and weird medieval uniforms can all look terribly mysterious. And in Rome, it adds to the widespread perception that the powerful only meet in the shadows. Now I'm off to see the most ancient institution of the lot, and a vicar of God. A city within a city, a state within a state. The Vatican is a strange place. It was around 1,000 years ago, and it will almost certainly be here in 1,000 years' time. Like the Knights of Malta, it issues stamps and passports. But the Vatican also has its own bank and even an army, the famous Swiss Guards. Over 1 billion Catholics worldwide look to the Vatican, making it the largest single religious organization ever. What's more, it is headed by the most powerful man in the world, answerable only to God. Here the Pope gets the final word on the government, the law, and the courts. He is the only absolute monarch left in Europe. His infallible word determines the most intimate behavior of millions. Not only can he rule on who people can sleep with, but down to the details of how they do it. The consequences of the Pope's proclamations on contraception alone have a dramatic effect on the number of children born everywhere, from Africa to South America.
Pope must have a bigger lift than this, surely. Here we go.
Buongiorno. Good afternoon.
Monsignor Fisichella is a very powerful man. He's an archbishop, and he's in charge of rebuilding the Catholic Church in Europe. What's more, he has tipped my son to be the next pope. And he's brought me up here for a reason.
This is unique.
This is incredible. And so...
This is the apostolic building.
Yeah.
And the top, you can see,
Yes.
where is the apartment of the Holy Father. This is a small, very small state, the smallest in the world. Look at that. Look at that.
Yes.
All of that.
Yes.
This is culture. This is culture. If all of this is power, we have this power.
This is a strength and a power, and it is something that you would fully expect to continue whatever the circumstances in the country are.
We have the responsibility to keep a continuity of our civilization, a living culture.
Do you ever feel it necessary to talk to somebody in the government and say, look, this is not right, or we support you on this?
I think that we should have an influence in politics and in the culture. We should not forget that in this country especially, there is a very old tradition of active participation of politicians, Catholic politicians, to the life of the society.
Yes. Now, the church is an economic power in its own right. So, do you feel that you have an economic responsibility to help with the victims of recession and austerity?
The state is responsible for this poverty. State is responsible for society. Where there is not the presence of state, and the state should be there, the church is present. The Catholics are present. The Christians are present in this city.
In the 21st century, the Vatican may look like it's trapped in another age, but it would again be a mistake to be fooled by the funny costumes and ancient buildings. There is real power here, and it's not shy of using it. The last person I'm seeing has escaped assassination attempts that killed his colleagues. He is a celebrated national hero. He has dedicated his life in pursuit of the biggest, richest, and most ruthless network of power in Rome, the Mafia.
Piero Grassi, legend in his own lifetime.
It's a crime in Italy to have any association with the Mafia. But what I can do is meet its arch enemy. Italy takes the problem of organized crime so seriously that it has a special police agency dedicated to fighting it.
Perché la mafia è paura, la mafia è intimidazione, la mafia è violenza, la mafia è dolore, la mafia è sangue, la mafia è morte, la mafia è lutto, la mafia è corruzione, la mafia è collusione, la mafia è contiguità, la mafia è complicità, la mafia è in ricerca dell'impunità. Contro tutto questo noi lottiamo con forza, con impegno, forever.
You have been fighting the mafia for 30 years. Are you winning?
Diciamo che abbiamo vinto molte battaglie, ma ancora non abbiamo vinto la guerra.
Are you worried that at a time of economic recession, that because the mafia has so much cash, actually its influence will increase?
Quando si ha potere economico si rischia anche di influenzare la democrazia, di influenzare anche il potere politico. È come un grosso club che ti crea il collegamento col resto della società, no? Dove tu sei ammesso al club, hai vantaggi, entrano nell'economia legale, dall'altro buttano fuori l'economia legale pulita, perché non può reggere il mercato. Nel senso che i loro lavoratori non sono con la paga legale, spesso non hanno l'assicurazione, e questa diventa la vera forza della mafia.
You have been living for years with the threat of violence. How do you deal with this?
Io faccio sempre una metafora della mia vita. È come un fiume che nasce una sorgente zampillante, poi incomincia a crearsi l'alveo del suo corso, però ha degli ostacoli e allora fa delle anse, però non perde mai di vista il suo obiettivo, al mare.
Have you arrived at the sea?
Non ancora.
Non ancora, not yet.
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet. A deeply impressive man who has just described to me how mafia power permeates every level of Italian society. He said himself that he'd won many battles, but not yet the war. I wonder whether he will.
Nearly everyone has told me how the network of power is operated from the shadows by people pursuing their own agendas. You have to conclude that unless the old ways are given up, the city is doomed to stagnate. Right now, the only flourishing organizations are those that thrive in hard times, the church and the mafia. I wonder if Rome is still, as they say, fit for purpose.